Welcome to the next module. In this module, we will be studying about Northern Sea Route and ice-breaking ships. The Arctic ship or the sea routes are basically the maritime paths used by vessels to navigate through parts or the entirety of the Arctic. There are three main routes which connect the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. This is Atlantic Ocean, this is the Pacific Ocean. One route passes through here and another route passes through this side, and there is a third route here given in the dotted lines. The blue color circle is basically the Arctic Circle. So, how we go from Atlantic region to Pacific Ocean is decided by the three routes. The first one is the Northeast Passage. The Northeast Passage is basically Russian and Norwegian coast, any shipping route between Europe and Asia along the northeastern shores of Russia. So this is the Northeastern Passage route. So this passes through the Russia. This entire area is the Russian region. So this is UK, Europe and other places. This is the Asian region. So from the Europe to the Asian region, the path goes, that is the Northeast Passage. This passes through most of the Russian Arctic region. The next one is the Northwest Passage, which is Northern Canadian and Alaskan coast. So this is the Alaska, this is Canada. So Northern Canadian coast to the shipping route connecting basically these two regions, that is Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. This passes mainly through the Canadian Arctic. So this is the entire Canadian Arctic region. And here we see there are lots of small passages are given here. And the third one is the transpolar route. That means it passes through the Arctic, through the North Pole. So this is the North Pole which is at the center. So this area is basically also called as the transpolar route. There are two other significant routes which are present. One is the Northern Sea Route and the Arctic Bridge. So what is the Arctic shipping or the sea routes? The Arctic Bridge is basically a internal Arctic route linking Russia to Canada, and the Northern Sea Route trails the Russian coast from Bering Strait to the east to the Kara Sea to the west. So here is the region, that is the main difference between the Northern Sea Route and Northeastern Passage is the NEP comprises of Barnett Sea and provides access to the port of Murmansk. So this is the Murmansk. So this is involved in NEP, or this is part of NEP, that is Northeastern Passage. And this is the largest Russian Arctic port, and this helps to passage through the Atlantic. So let us look at the comparison between Northeast Passage and the Northwest Passage. The Northeast Passage runs along the northern coast of Russia from Barnett Sea to Bering Strait. The northwest one passes through Canadian archipelago from Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. What is the geography scope? Basically, the Northeast Passage is an Arctic route primarily through the Russian Arctic, including the Siberian area. The Northwest Passage is basically in the Canadian Arctic region, which includes various straits and channels. What are the major routes in the Northeastern Passage? The main thing is Barnett Sea to Bering Strait, that is one area. Then it also includes routes such as Siberian route and the Northern Sea Route. The Northwest Passage basically starts from Baffin Bay to Chukchi Sea area, that is Greenland Sea to the Bering Sea, and it also includes routes such as Parry Channel and Ballard Strait. What are the navigational challenges? The Northeast Passage is the most difficult to pass through because it is typically covered with thick multi-year ice, and especially in the eastern sections near the Siberia. And extreme weather conditions and icebergs are there plenty. And there is a limited infrastructure and navigation aids available in this particular route. So this is the most difficult route to pass through. With respect to Northwest Passage, there is also dense multi-year ice, particularly in the central and northern sections, mainly near the Arctic North Pole region. And this complex geography and numerous narrow straits and shallows are present here. So that is the biggest problem. There is narrow straits and shallow areas. So the ship is having very difficulty, because if it is a big ship, then they cannot follow through the shallow areas. If it is a shorter ship, then they will have problem to pass through the thick ice conditions. So this is the traveling is a little bit challenging when we pass through the Northwest Passage. This often requires icebreaker assistance. So to travel through the shallow area, we need a smaller ship, and a smaller ship cannot break ice, so we need icebreakers. So what is the climatic conditions between these two regions? The Northeast Passage generally is colder and ice covered for longer periods. The temperatures are very low, extremely low, like minus 50 degree, and there is only short navigation window due to thick ice. Whereas in the Northwest Passage, it is colder but not as cold as the Northeast Passage. The temperature may go up to -30 only. Icy conditions vary greatly depending on the specific passage route through which we are passing. And the seasonal ice coverage is basically in the Northeast Passage. It is typically limited to the summer months, that is July to September, due to thick ice, and ice melting patterns vary along the route. Whereas in the case of Northwest Passage, and navigation is still during the same period, July to September, and similarly it is very similar to Northeast Passage. What is the economic significance? The Northeast Passage is potentially significant for cargo transit between Europe and Asia. So the Northeast Passage is mainly for Europe and Asia, and Russia aims to develop for it increased trade and resource extraction, this particular route. And the Northwest Passage is less significant due to challenging conditions. And also there is an increase in interest in the energy resources and shipping routes as ice melts. What is the infrastructure requirement? Basically, the Northeast Passage is developed by Russia with several ports and research stations. It includes icebreaker support and satellite navigation systems. The Northwest Passage has very limited infrastructure compared to the Northeast Passage. The navigation is largely dependent on icebreakers, assistance and local knowledge. So the famous failed Franklin expeditions and other things suffered because they wandered through the Northwest Passage, where the seas were shallow and the icy conditions were not known, because the local knowledge was very important to traverse the Northwest Passage. What is the historic exploration? We had seen earlier also. The Russian expeditions such as Erich Nordenskiöld in the 19th century had passed through the Northeast Passage, whereas the failed Franklin and other expeditions passed through the Northwest Passage. Of course, Amundsen had done successfully the Northwest Passage. What are the recent developments? There is increasing traffic due to melting of ice and Russia also promotes lots of effort to use the Northeast route. The major shipping companies and state interests are investing in the infrastructure in the Northeastern route. Due to the climate change and the melting of ice, the Northwest Passage is also opening for longer duration. Canadian government and private interests are working to develop navigation and infrastructure in this particular region. So NSR, that is Northern Sea Route, can also be divided based on the principal climatic areas. One is the Atlantic area, another one is Siberian area, the third one is the Pacific area. So the Atlantic area covers Barnett Sea, western part of Kara Sea and part of Arctic Basin extending to the north. There is frequent storms in this winter, and dull weather with frequent fogs and precipitation in summer are characteristics of this particular area. The Siberian area is the eastern part of Kara Sea, Laptev Sea and western part of East Siberian Sea. This area is influenced by the Siberian low in winter. Air temperature here tend to be much lower than the surrounding areas in the winter, and higher in summer near the continental coast, although the northern part of the area remains cooler even during summer. The third one is the Pacific area. Eastern part of the East Siberian Sea and Chukchi Sea is this particular region. In winter, it is strongly influenced by the Pacific weather system. Air temperature is higher and wind strength, and the amount of precipitation in this area is greater than in the surrounding areas. And what are the principal oceanic and sea regions in the Northern Sea Route? One is the Barnett Sea, another one is the Kara Sea. The Barnett Sea is the westernmost part of the Northern Sea Route. It is connected to Arctic Ocean and the North Atlantic Ocean. The climate is subarctic to Arctic climate. Winter temperature ranges from -10 to -30. Summer temperature varies from 10 to 15 degree. The ice conditions are lighter compared to the other parts of the Northern Sea Route. And here we have the less amount of multi-year ice. The navigation here is more easy during the summer, and in the port of Murmansk is the key hub in this particular area. Kara Sea is situated between Barnett Sea and the Laptev Sea. The climate is Arctic climate. Winter temperature goes to -30 to -40. Summer temperatures are around -5 to +5. The ice conditions are very thick, multi-year ice are there, and ice flows are becoming more common. So here there is an icebreaker is required if you have to travel through this particular area. The challenging conditions are there with several ice coverage areas. And Laptev Sea lies between Kara Sea and the East Siberian Sea. Eastern Siberian area is located between Laptev Sea and the Chukchi Sea. So these are all the various seas covered in that particular region. Similarly, we have a Chukchi area, which is the easternmost part of the Northern Sea Route. So these are all the principal oceanic sea regions in the Northern Sea Route.